I have to tell you about this book because it is absolutely insane. Last December, I started reading this book, The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson. And yes, December. It was part of my intention to read as many books before the end of the year as I could to meet my Goodreads reading goal. I did not finish it, clearly, before December ended, but instead I binged most of it. Like I got through, 75, maybe 80% of this book in that week between Christmas and New Year's. And then it got so intense that I needed to take a break. A multiple month break. And the craziest thing, so I was listening to this via audiobook, the craziest thing is that had I just kept listening for 5 more minutes, I would have been fine. I would have reached the resolution and the climax, and I would have, like, that tension that I was held in would have been decreased enough that I would have been able to finish the book right away. But no, instead, it freaked me out, and so I took a break. A 5-month break before I could finish this book. So now I have to tell you about it so you can decide if you want to read it, because that's what we do here. This is my channel. Welcome back. I do books and stories from a writer's perspective. So I'll give you all sorts of insights from the writing side of things, from the characterization side of things, the things that, the characters or that the authors do really well in order to have a specific effect on you as a reader or as a viewer, depending on how the story, or as a listener even, depending on how the story is going. So let's get into it. The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson. There will be spoilers ahead, but for right now, if you want to skip the spoilers, here's my general takeaway. I really enjoyed this book. It is not the right book for you if you like intense action sequences or high stakes, high intensity, fast-paced novels. This is a very slow burn book. But it makes up for it in the suspense because it is very masterfully done suspense. It is incredibly masterfully done suspense. This is the kind of suspense that makes you sit, not exactly on the edge of your seat, but really sitting in that tension for quite a while. So if you like psychological, suspenseful stories of family dramas and disappearances, this is the good book for you. If you want more punchy, fighty stuff, this is not the book for you. Despite the main character's propensity for punching walls, there's not a whole lot of fight scenes or high intensity action. There's confrontations, but there's not anything that's really that high action sort of thing. So if you're looking for a thriller, probably not the right book for you. But if you're looking for a psychological story and a good suspense story, then this might be the one for you. Okay, now into the spoilers. So first, a little bit about this book. This book follows Marlowe, a father of 2 twins who lost his wife to an illness. She died, and at her funeral, while he's saying his last goodbyes, he gets notified that he has won the lottery, the super lottery, the super jackpot. He is now a multimillionaire. And in the midst of his grief, he does the only thing he knows how to do, which is try to make the most of the situation and try to make a better life for himself, his kids, his family. And in that process, he decides the best thing for them to do is to pick up and move to a town called Bury. And this whole town is full of rich people. I mean, it's mansions on every side of the street. It's the kind of sleepy town where the only sort of crime that happens is teenagers speeding in their cars, and then their parents can bribe police to get out of it, right? So that's the kind of town that he picks up and moves his family to. As they get there, he starts receiving these very threatening, very ominous letters of, "You're in the right spot. We want you in this house. Stay put. Don't leave." Over and over and over again, right? And that is obviously freaking him out. He has 2 young kids. They're both, they're under 10. Maybe they are 10, but they're in that range, right? These kids are freaked out. They're now in this massive house They're not used to being apart, so they decide to share a room, even though they both could have their own bedrooms. It's the kind of house that has secrets. And, quick side note, this book is a spin-off, and I didn't know this when I went into reading it. So this is a spin-off continuation of The Dead Husband, also by Carter Wilson. Different characters, same house. So there's a lot of mystery that is introduced in The New Neighbor around the house and around the Yates family who owned the house in the past. I was hoping that would get wrapped up in this book. It was not wrapped up in this book because it's wrapped up in a different book. It's wrapped up in The Dead Husband, or at least introduced, or that story is a different story. It's a different book. So very clever marketing on Carter Wilson's part to have these two interconnected stories, different families, same house. That's pretty interesting. It's a really unique way to do it. And it's a fun Easter egg if you've read both books. So that's really cool. I'm going to be reading them out of order because I didn't know. I just picked up whatever one was interesting to me at the time. But anyway, so you can get the resolution for the story is what I'm saying, which is encouraging to me because I was like, that's kind of a loose end. But it's not a loose end because he answers it and it gets its own book, right? Okay, moving on. We're back. Anyway, so our main character, Marlowe, he starts getting these threatening letters and these notes that are telling him to stay put, stay in this house, don't leave. You're in the right spot. You're supposed to be in Barry. But they're all signed, We Who Watch. Right? And so he's pretty convinced that he is, like, being stalked. He gets home security. He gets all of these things to try to make his house safer. He talks to the police to try to figure out, like, hey, who's sending these letters? Can we figure that out at all? On and on and on. He has a housewarming party. His daughter gets locked in the basement. It's not great. There's a whole lot of not great that happens in this book. So all that to say, for as much of the story happening in such domestic spaces, right? It is mostly in Marlowe's head. I mean, he's our only point of view character, but for his perspective to be the only one we get, first of all. Second of all, for him to be trying his best to keep his family safe and happy and living in this life that he's now supposed to have, right? Like, he's now a lottery winner, so he's supposed to have specific things, and he's dealing with that identity crisis, as well as suddenly now being a single father. That is a lot for him to be processing, and he does not process it well. He does not process this thing well at all. And he starts having these moments of, he starts blacking out, essentially, where he's a drunk, first of all, but he also loses time. He has moments where he doesn't recognize either himself in the mirror, or he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what he did for the last few days, or even just a day. He starts repeating the same things because he's determined to solve this mystery of this family that lived in this house beforehand because they all disappeared, right? And he's like trying to figure that out because he thinks it might have something to do with his current predicament. And that's just simply not the case. But he doesn't know that. And we don't know that until later on, right? And so as we're reading, we get into this, and it is so intense because he thinks that he knows what's happening. The police are not very helpful because this is a very sleepy little town. The neighbors are all generally fine, weird in their own ways, but not problematic for the most part. Yeah, it was a very good book. I did really enjoy the book. Overall, probably 4-ish stars, 4.5 maybe, just because of the slower pace, which is not necessarily my favorite thing. But the suspense. This book is a perfect masterclass in diving into holding the tension. So if you are an author and you're trying to work on developing your ability to hold tension in a scene or create tension in a very mundane scenario, right? Like kids exploring this mansion for the very first time. One of them screams because she finds blood, or what she thinks is blood, right? And to have this undercurrent of this family is being watched, they're in danger, to have that undercurrent throughout the entire story and maintain that tension and still raise the stakes as time goes on, it's very masterfully done. Carter Wilson did a very good job doing this. So there's that going on. And then additionally, you have a few other pieces of the story, right? So somebody is sending these letters. Marlowe is trying to figure out who, so that he can figure out if he's supposed to do anything about it. But the letters start to change, right? So the first ones are like, stay put, you're supposed to be in this house is the right spot for you, we who watch. But after that, they start getting a little bit more threatening. They know how much he won. They know where he lived before. They know who his family is. They know where his kids go to school. And now they want him to send them money. A portion, even. Just a little bit. It's not the kind that he won't miss now that he's a lottery winner. And so it's a very interesting study psychologically in how money changes a person and how greed changes a person. Because Marlowe was a bartender before he won the lottery. He had not even enough money to he had to make ends meet somehow, but it wasn't ever a concern that he would be blackmailed for a quarter of his money. And now that he has his money, he really doesn't want to part with it. That's the kind of thing that, I think we all forget, right? We have these dreams and aspirations of, when I make it big, right? Like, what does that look like? When I can afford a house, when I can have my own pet, when I can have a new car, when I don't have to worry about financial emergencies, right? And so it starts there, but then it keeps developing into, well, now that I have a house, I actually want that house because it has more bedrooms, more bathrooms. I want to be able to renovate the house so that it looks exactly how I want it. I want this really beautiful water feature in the backyard that's going to take a lot of maintenance. I actually am tired of mowing the lawn. I'd like to be able to pay someone else to mow the lawn. And so our expenses, as we grow our wealth, our expenses also grow with us to the point where we're not actually seeing much improvement in our lives from having more money. The houses can be more luxurious. Our schedules can have different things in them because we're not doing so much maintenance. But the reality of it is that our expenses and our income have not really changed because our expenses have increased with our income. This is something that we see all the time. And I love that Carter Wilson put that sort of thing into this book. So Marlowe buys this massive house, and in that, he's like, well, now I have to pay a landscaper because there's no way I can maintain this lawn. So he starts paying this landscaper who was taking care of the house before. And then he's like, well, now I'm scared for my children, so now I need to pay for this home security system to be in place. And on and on and on. Now he has all of these legal fees for managing his accounts, for keeping track of his money, for making sure that his money is safe. He has airplane tickets because his investigation into the family who lived there takes him all over the place, right? On and on and on. And it is such an interesting study in how we respond to unexpected increases in wealth and how the people around us also respond to that, especially when it's something like the lottery. So I won't give away who's doing anything, but I will say, as Carter Wilson writes Marlowe, as Marlowe starts to fall apart, for lack of a better word, as Marlowe loses more time, as he's still drinking more and more. We get some backstory into his life before he moved to the United States, his life in Ireland with his brother. We get to see the worst night of his life played out in his memories, and we get to see some of that echoing back through as the climax unfolds. But Marlowe, he becomes an unreliable narrator. And I think that's the part that got to me the most, right? So we have all of this undercurrent of suspense. We have these children who are potentially in danger. We have Marlowe doing his best, but failing no matter what he tries to do because he's not in a good headspace. And then we see him become an unreliable narrator, where I'm used to being able to trust the narrators of the books that I read. And so to have him not even trust himself as he's losing time and trying to figure out okay, who could have turned off the security cameras? The only person who could do that is him, right? Why would he have done that? What got into him to do that? He's missing things. He's forgetting things. He doesn't remember that he's already done something. On and on and on. And that slip, that's the part that made me unsure if I was going to keep reading. So when I put the book down, because I needed a break from the tension, because it was just dialed up to 11, right? I needed a break from that tension, and then I wasn't sure if I was going to keep reading, mostly because I wasn't sure if Marlowe was a trustworthy narrator. And that that did get to me. I was not sure if I was going to be pleased with the ending, if I was going to have that resolution and that sense of safety afterward, right? And the good news is I did get that. So when I did go pick it up, and I decided to pick it back up because I could not stop thinking about it. And I was like, okay, I just need answers at this point. It's been months and I haven't moved on from this book. I need answers. So I did return to it, and I'm glad I did, because now I both have answers and I have a little bit of that resolution that happens when you do finish a book, especially in mundane situations. I think it's very easy to lean too heavily into high action when we're trying to increase tension, which is not always the right way to do it. Sometimes the right way to increase your tension is actually to slow things down and linger in those really uncomfortable spaces. And Carter Wilson does a really good job of that. So there you go. If you're looking for a new read, The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson. I really liked it. I listened to it in audiobook. I started reading it in paperback when I started it the very first time. It's a good one. It'll keep you definitely engaged. It's a good read. I would recommend. Thank you for watching. Welcome back to my channel. I'm trying really hard to produce and create the kinds of videos that are the kinds of videos you are interested in. So if there's something on my channel that you haven't seen in a while and you miss it, please let me know. If you liked this video, let me know by putting a like on there and leaving a subscribe so that you can see the next videos that I post. I do book reviews, I do movie reviews, film reviews, story. I just like to review stories and talk about stories and how the writing is conveying different things. I try to post at least twice a month, more often if I can swing it with my work schedule. I work in publishing, so I'm often quite busy running around getting books produced. But when I'm able to, I like to post that. So like, subscribe, stick around, go watch some other reviews if you liked this one. Oh, and don't forget to follow me. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm on Pinterest. So you can find me in any of those places at author JJ Hanna. And I have a blog where I post my own short fiction. So if you want to go check that out, you can do so at authorjjhanna.com. Okay, until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.